Okay, Chapter 2. Okay, Chapter 2 is creating a work set within the IDOT ORD environment. Okay, so this is a new concept. Really, every project is required to have a work set, and I'll show you what that means or what that looks like. When you first open the software, you'll see this. You'll notice over on the left-hand side it says Workspace, and if your computer is set up properly with the IDOT environment, it will look just like this. And it'll give you the opportunity to use the Bentley training environment. If you're doing a class that was put out by Bentley and not by anybody else, or IDOT, or us, or whoever, it would be common for you to point to this training and examples. And Bentley does have a real nice training program for just learning the fundamentals. Now, that's not going to be specific to IDOT or any other DOT or company or whatever. It's just a very generalized environment. But in our case, we almost always would be using the IDOT environment. So IDOT calls it IDOT Consultant. And then under Work Set, so you got your workspace, IDOT Consultant. But what you need to create, or somebody needs to create when a project is first started, is a work set. And that work set is going to be created within the IDOT environment that's on your machine. And just in case you don't know what I'm talking about when I say the IDOT environment, let's check that out real quick. Okay, now this could be locally, or it could be on a server in most companies, or project-wise. Now in our company, it's going to be on the H drive, but for this particular example, I'm going to go to the C drive. I'm keeping this kind of generic, but the environment folder structure is going to be exactly the same. So I've placed it here. So IDOT names it IDOT CAD, just like they did with the Power Geopack environment, but then they have underbar ORD. So when you're using ORD, your computer should be pointing to this environment. And then I'm going to go configuration, and you're going to see workspaces, IDOT Consultant that we mentioned a second ago, and then work sets. And it's at this location where any of these standard files that are specific to your project are going to reside. You know, it could be used for many things. You know, maybe you've got a cell library that you only want to use for this project. Probably the most important to us right now, the most common thing would be, for example, well, here's a County Highway 14, or let's see. Let's take a look at another one. Here's one I'm working on, this Otterville job. Standards, sheet borders. In there, you're going to see sheet borders. And so later on, when we get to sheets, you're going to find out that we're not using cells like we did in the past. Instead, the sheet border is just going to be in a design file. There's going to be various models, and then if you're working for a consultant, like in our case, CEC, you're going to have a modified sheet border that includes, you know, your name, that sort of thing. And then at this location, because it's project specific, you could also key in all that project information, and then you only type it in one time. And so that's part, you know, some of the reasons why I guess they're setting, you know, going about this method. Anyway, but I guess what you need to know is just that every project needs to have a work set. And so let's act like we are just getting started, which we are on a project. And so, let's say nobody else has created the work set yet for that project that everybody in the company is going to point to. So I'm going to go to work set. I'm going to point to create work set. And then I'm going to use a template that I created. So I'm going to hit that drop down, and I'm going to select template for new work set. And then in the name, we want to give it some sort of logical name. Whether that be the route name or whatever it is, whatever common format you decide to use. I've been just using usually the route name, but for class, we will just call this work set student, and then whatever student number you were assigned when you started the class. So I'm going to be student 1. Type that in. I give it a description if I like. And then I want to make sure that create folders only is untoggled, because I want it to go ahead and create a copy over that whole structure with files in it for us automatically. So we don't want just folders. We want all the files and everything associated to it. And then under folder locations, you can see that's kind of ghosted out. And the reason for that is because we're using the template. And so the way the IDOC configuration files are set up is it's going to automatically point us to these locations when we're working within the file. And so we're just going to say OK. And then you should notice under workset that it says student 1. And then from now on, when you're working, you're going to, once you start using ORD, you're going to be working on a bunch of different projects. But the very first thing that you are going to want to do when you get into your file is to make sure that you point to that work set that you had created. And it's real nice. Once you do that, it does things for you like it will show you all the recent files that were used, but only recent files that are associated to that project, not to all the projects that the company has recently used, that sort of thing. Later on, we're going to talk about sheet numbering, and the sheet numbering is automatically stored at this location. And so what that does, it automatically numbers all your sheets for you. So even if you add additional sheets later on, it doesn't matter. It's going to put all those sheet numbers on your sheets and put them in consecutive order, so that when you go to make a print, all your sheets will be in order and they will be numbered already for you. And the reason why that works is because you took the time to create this work set. And like I said, that's where all that information is stored. So, okay, this was kind of a quick video. This was really just to talk about how to create a work set, kind of what a work set is, and just so that you know that you always need to be pointing to that work set. And your files, when you open them, you'll see at times if somebody opened that file where they were not in this work set, it's going to say, hey, do you want to reassociate that to the proper work set? But you'll see that later. We'll talk about that later. But this chapter was really just about setting up that work set. So let's go ahead and end it there.